Well, hi there, guys. It's Tony here from Caveman Props, and I'm back with another one of my prop talks, chapter 2. Or does that make it sound a bit like Mandalorian? Anyway, I'd like to welcome my guest this evening. He's obviously a prop collector, a entrepreneur, a artist, also a prop restorer, and an all-round excellent guy. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Museum of Science Fiction, it's Mr. Neil Cole.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Tony. And not, let's just say the entrepreneur bit hasn't come natural at all, because I'm 25 years of a teacher, and therefore, if it was up to me, I'd let everybody in for free and give everything away. And my father-in-law keeps telling me off and says, no, you have actually got to live. But, you know, I do everything out of pure love for it, really. And but yes, it's interesting. I guess I am an entrepreneur of a kind, but more of the artist, I think, is hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I think your passion for it definitely shows through. And obviously I can understand your point there, wanting to give everything away, but hopefully I think that's why things are successful, because of the passion and the enthusiasm you put through.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to obviously have a little speak this evening, just to get an idea of the museum. I want to try and take you back to where the original idea came from for the museum. So like the seed idea did you have like a collection of props and you thought I could open a museum? No. Or did the idea come first and then you started collecting them?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly. The idea came absolutely in 1975. I was 5 because I'm 50 now, and 5 years old. My dad took me to Blackpool. We're in Northumberland, it's about an hour and a half drive. We were quite a poor family, so I never got away very much. So going to Blackpool was a big deal. But it was just the weekend, and the Doctor Who exhibition was on. Season 12 was out, and I got to see the props first. I love Doctor Who. In the early 70s, I have no idea how old you are, Tony, but the bottom line is, in the 70s, it was a wilderness for science fiction fans, and I was sort of one of these kids who lived in a sort of only child, bit bullied, sort of bit isolated. So I lived for science fiction and fantasy. I mean, it was my comics. It was comics and staying up late to watch movies, and Doctor Who was your fix. And so to go on a Saturday, summer's day, and go into that Doctor Who exhibition, it was, I can see it now. And it blew me away. And I always thought there and then, I've got to do this. And I remember going on ghost trains, as well, and loving the fact when you're in a ghost train, it was sort of a safe scare, and that ambience, and you were going to another world for a short few minutes. You were just transported. And the Doctor Who exhibition at that time, for when you're 5, it was Santa Claus, it was the Christmas magic, it was fiction meets reality, and it was amazing. And I always thought I'd love to do something from that point on. That's where it started.
So from that very early age then. Yeah. Okay. So from that was obviously the seed idea.
Yeah.
When do you feel, from your point, it started to, you got the idea, okay, I'm going to actually do this and it's going to be a reality?
It was a funny old thing. It was somewhere in the 1990s. I remember early 90s, getting the Sevens Dalek and Cyberman kits and loving them. I remember building my Sevens Dalek kit, and it was so accurate at the time. I mean, it was a wonderful thing. And I don't know. I remember getting very early on an original Cyberman head through various things. And it was in the early 90s. There was the Bonham's auctions came up, and those Bonham's auctions, when I was in 1990, about 20, being a student, I had zero money. And I remember seeing these props came up for sale and just thinking, well, that's that then. That's the Doctor Who, world of Doctor Who sold off. That's the end of my chance of getting anything, because I was skint. And then by the end of the decade, I got a Cyberman helmet just through contacts, pure fluke. So I had this one head. It's not enough to do an exhibition with, but I remember it it struck me then I got my first teaching job. I had a funny upbringing and a funny. It took me a long time to get into a job that would pay anything. So I became a teacher when I was nearly 30, and that allowed me to actually spend a little bit on props. And it was at that point I realized I had to make a choice very, very quickly whether or not I was going to collect Doctor Who merchandise, which I adore. Who fans, we love our merchandise, don't we? And the one thing I've kept is my VHS covers, and I've kept my little Harlequin miniatures. That's all I kept, and the rest I've sold everything to buy original pieces. And at that point, it was just some crazy thought. I thought, I'm going to open a coffee shop or something, and I'm going to put all this stuff in. I'm going to be like a Blue Box Cafe or something like that. But one of the problems of being a teacher is that it consumes your entire life. And it's good in that there's good points of teaching, but there's also a lot of pressure, and you have to give your soul really to teaching. And so that took up a good good decade or two. But in that time, I was beginning to collect a few bits and pieces, nothing out of this world, but just costumes and things. And to me, these were just a contact with the program. It was gold. And then it was, sorry, do stop me if I go on. I do go on a lot, Tony. So when I got to the point where I basically married Lisa, and I had a tiny little house. I looked after my parents. They'd been very poorly. They died, and it was just a lot of negative stuff. Married Lisa, and life took a turn, and for the better. And living in a tiny little house, and then suddenly this house where I'm now came up for sale, and it was like one of those. It was I was about to sell all my collection because I thought I was living in a 2 up, 2 down, and I thought, well, I'm sort of mid-40s now, and there's no way I'm going to do anything with these props. And to me, to have something like a Cyber Scout standing in an upstairs bedroom, I just thought, what's the point? What is the point? I've got a plasmaton, and it's nice, I go in and see them, but after a while, you just think, well, what is the point? And I'd always thought, I want to be able to do something with these things. And this house came up, and it was cheaper than our 2 up, 2 down. So we did a house swap effectively. And it was a wreck. It was not cheap for nothing, People sometimes think, oh, you're very lucky having a museum. I did 3 years of stonework on the cellar. I did work as a builder for 2 years, but that was way back, I was 18. But I had to do all the stonework. I had to redo plumbing in 300-year-old plumbing. I'm not trained at any of this. So I had to sort of it was that dream kicked in. I thought, dear God, I could actually do this. I can get that cellar knocked round. I've got somewhere to put this stuff. So I literally had the Cyber Scout on eBay, right? I had the Cyber Scout on eBay. And I was like talking myself into selling it. I thought, no, we've got children now. I can't, they need a bedroom more than the Cyber Scout at the end of the day. And it was those sort of adult common sense sort of discussions you have with yourself. And we got this house, and I literally stopped the eBay sale on the Cyber Scout about half an hour before it finished. And I was getting dealer offers coming in and all sorts. And my wife looked at me and she went, this is really hurting you, isn't it? And I went, yeah. She went, you don't want to sell that. I really don't. Because I thought, I'll never see another one, ever. I'll never be able to afford it back, ever. And thankfully, she just said, stop it, just stop it. And then the house sale came through. We got the offer accepted. And then it was a chance to do something. A long-winded answer, but it was sort of a dream that had just been there. And then finally, fate moved when I was 45, which was, hey, better late than never. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it sounds brilliant. Obviously, because I've also followed you online with the development of the museum as well. I can kind of see that your lovely wife Lisa has been a massive support from you, and obviously from your comment there as kind of really backed you, and I think that has helped you a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, without going into too much detail, I was married before, and I was in what I would class as not a healthy marriage. And my advice to young people is be careful who you marry, people, because you can. It sounds silly, but you can get yourself into a situation which is not good for you. You can get yourself into a situation where you've got someone who supports and backs what you do, And it's not just Lisa, it's been our family. I mean, if you probably saw a Netflix show, you probably saw my father-in-law.
Yeah.
I always have to, he has just been amazing. He is like the dad I never had. I mean, my dad was he was there, but he was an you know, he lived in the war and he drank a lot, and he meant well, but there was I never had any support that I needed to do these sort of creative projects, and suddenly, yeah, I hit 40 and my life turned around, and Lisa has been amazing. I mean, half the time it's just like now. Lisa could see me getting in a kerfuffle ready to come on here. The kids are running around. She just went, "No, don't worry, I'll sort it." And it's just that at times that you need. You know, it's like, I've got to go and do some stonework in the cellar. Don't worry, off you pop. It's just knowing somebody is quite happy for you to pop downstairs and, you know, pray the hell out of a wall for a bit is sometimes just what you need. But the support, what I've done it without, I think there's a good chance I'd have done something. But I mean, certainly this would not be here now, ready to go now. It will probably be another 5 years, probably something like that, because the amount of building work I had to do. And then as well, when you've got children, as you know, it all adds layers of complexity to your life. Good layers, but you know, it makes it hard. I would say, you know, James Burgess, prop maker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said to James once, I don't know if he's ever listened to this, but I actually said this. I would say, get on with your creative stuff now before you have kids, because once you've got children, it makes life incredibly, you know, you can't just think, oh, I'm going to spend the next 6 hours painting or drawing. It just gets harder and harder to do. Sorry, I've gone off again.
No worries.
Just, you know, this is what I do. So,
yeah. No, that's brilliant. It's just the kind of things, you know, I asked the question and you run with it. Obviously, you've mentioned there that you're a teacher.
Mm.
Obviously, you've got kids of your own.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were doing the building work on the cellar to get it turned into the museum. You were restoring a lot of the props as well because they were in bad condition.
Terrible.
You were setting up the displays for them as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got friends who are teachers. I know people moan at them about the amount of holidays they have, but I know it's not a job with a massive amount of free time. So where did you find the time?
Well, okay, first 3 years, from about 2015 to 2018, that first 3 years of this project, it was the summer holidays were like a military operation. I timed what I was doing. I mean, I took it incredibly seriously. I mean, I don't know what to say in a sense, is much that Ofsted, my money, have made my life as a teacher. Not that I've had terribly bad dealings with them, but they're like Big Brother, you know, and it puts you under pressure all the time. I think it's unhealthy, to be honest, especially when you're creative and you just want to. I'm a creative teacher, you know, I'm an art teacher, but I've taught science, I've taught maths and everything, you know, but it puts you under tremendous pressure so if you do take time off teaching, there's like guilt, there's like, you know, it's very strange, you know, and as you know, if you know teachers, you'll have heard all this. So the answer was, I'd get in from work, I'd see the kids for a little bit here, and then about 8 o'clock till midnight, I'd be downstairs doing building work or doing some restoration, and the holidays were very regimented. And I would just devote time. And one of the things I think I'm probably quite good at now is focus and blocking out the rest of life's noise for periods of time. It's the sort of secret I've found. I've dropped my teaching. Now I'm teaching only 2 days a week, which is incredible. And it's like, so most of my week's the museum now. And it feels like it's so exciting because I've just got time I've never had. Very envious when I used to see people who were working full time in creative arts. I'll be honest, I used to get jealous. I used to think, oh God, if only I had the time to do that. That must be amazing. So now I'm in a position where I do a couple of days art teaching, and I actually enjoy the art teaching now much more because it's good to get out, it's good to teach, it's nice to interact and do that side of things. But now the museum finally is what I spend most of the time on. So I feel very fortunate, to be honest, Tony. I feel very lucky to. It's not easy to do. I remember Andrew Scaletti, you know, the Doctor Who artist, Andrew Scaletti. Yeah. He said to me once, he said, Neil, you're going to have to take a bit of a leap off a cliff here. You're going to do something with your artwork or whatever. At some point, you are going to have to. And when I actually did sort of leave teaching a little bit, he sent me a mail just saying, I never thought you were actually going to do it. you know, because you get institutional. It's, you know, it's the check at the end of the month. It's the bills. It's paying for everything, and it's that security is hard to relinquish. Bloody exciting when you do. It has its moments. Yeah.
But it does seem to be paying off for you at the moment. I take it.
It is, but there's no but. Sorry, I'm saying but. There's no real but. I mean, we're in a pandemic, so the museum's been shut since March. 2 days teaching's helped my wife. She has a little business up here. And so she's been able to keep working. So we've both been, it's like a pizza income, you know, we sort of both do a little bit to work. But it was my wife who said, go on Patreon. And I didn't like the idea of Patreon. I didn't like the idea of asking people for money. It's just because I just think, well, A, who am I? B, why should people give me money? Why? I'm not a charity. You know, a lot of these sort of fan projects and museums and things, they always say, oh, charity. And I'm thinking, but I'm not saving lives. I'm not going out, you know, and cure the cancer here. I'm fiddling on with things I enjoy doing. You know what I mean? It's like, so I had difficulty going down the Patreon route because I didn't really want to ask people for money. So then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, if I can give people something back, that feels that it's an proper exchange, that's possibly something I could morally explore. And I know there are people who come here regularly, you know, maybe every other month or once a month. And I thought, well, it could be like a season ticket as well, you know, where you pay up, you never have to pay, you know. I mean, certainly with the Doctor Who Museum at Blackpool in the 2000s, I would have loved to have had a season ticket. We didn't do a season ticket. I used to go down every month. And I would have happily just bought to feel part of the museum. You know, that sort of, I'm part of this now. I've got my ticket. I can go anytime I want. And I thought, well, okay, there is that sort of side to it. So that's where I've kind of gone with it. And as you can possibly see, I brought it down. Where did I put them? There you go. So I've actually been able to write a magazine, which is...
Yeah. Is it good?
Sorry?
Is it good?
Thank you. Well, I'm really pleased with it. Now, I didn't intend on making a magazine. It was just I was going to send it to patrons as a thank you and as a PDF. But I don't know about you, Tony. I like to read hard. I'm a print person. I like something in my hand, and I'm not really that digitally media wise. So my father-in-law, again, Chris looked at it and he went, Neil, we need to print this. I went, we can't afford to print it. And we looked at printing costs. Were amazing. We've been able to. And then suddenly I thought, right, okay, we can do a collection here. And I love design. I love anything creative. So to do a little magazine, I love the magazines in Vision, and I remember the Doctor Who Monthly Archive, and I collect the Complete History, Doctor Who Complete History book. You know, I love all that stuff. So the idea was I thought, well, I want to do something a bit different to that. I don't want it to just be the Doctor Who Monthly Archive because it's already been done so well. There's no point in me doing that. So it had to be something to do with the museum that would be, you know, something relevant, but also start to tell an alternative story of Doctor Who through the object in the museum, which I thought would be quite a nice project. So there you go. So, and it seems to have gone down quite well. So it's very exciting.
It has. I have to admit, I've enjoyed reading this, and even my daughter picked it up the other day and was having a look at it. But it is so well laid out, and to learn some history about something, I think is absolutely wonderful. And I think you're on to such a winning idea anyway.
Well, I did that head, the Echelon head. If you haven't, anyone listening wonders what it's about. There's an old Echelon head from Death to the Daleks in the museum, and obviously, as you read the museum, it's not actually a screen-used head. I used to see that head at Blackpool and thought it was a screen-used head, but I used to think it was the High Priest because of its colouring, but it wasn't. It was made later. But it's still an interesting piece, and I thought it was quite a nice example of a prop that has a story to it, you know. And so many fans have walked past that thing, photographed it, and I photographed it countless times. I remember the first time I went to Llangollen, Blackpool, early 2000s. I remember that was the prop that stood out. No way, there's an Echelon head, you know. Never thought in a million years it would end up down in my cellar here, but. It's just nice to think, well, it's carrying on now. It's back on exhibition, which is good, so people can come and see it. And the magazine gives you a chance to tell a story in greater depth than you can if you ever visit Tony, you'll realise that, and it's probably gathering here. I'll talk a bit, and if anybody ever wants to just have a chat around the museum, I'm very happy to do that. But with all the will in the world, you know, when you meet people, you can only say so much about what's in the museum. And obviously, I've written plaques about everything, but the magazine just gives you that chance to go in depth. And fans then were contacting me with their photos, which are now in the magazine, which is amazing. So now I've got people's, you know, childhood, younger memories are now being in there, sort of adding to this narrative of the prop, which I just think is fantastic. So it's hopefully an interesting thing. So hey, there you go.
It definitely adds a different dimension. As I say, you can only fit so much information on the plaque that's next to it. So to know that there's a massive history into this nation. We spoke before about you obviously restoring some props. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because obviously you managed to get hold of some pieces.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm assuming quite at a decent price, but because they were in such bad condition.
Yeah, I mean, I was over the years, I started collecting props before the new series. So at that point, Doctor Who props were they weren't anything like the prices they were now. I mean, the Cyber Scout, for example, I couldn't afford. I dare say I couldn't afford a Cyber Scout now. That's why I just couldn't afford things like that. I was very fortunate. I mean, it's still, that Cyber Scout took me 2 years to pay off monthly. That's how I did a lot of this. I would be very patient and just pay things off over periods of time. But a lot of the pieces I got, for example, the pteroleptils, the classic example, I got that at the Bonhams auction. And I couldn't go to the auction in person. I so wanted to, but I was teaching, you know, and this is the thing. Teaching, you can't just think, oh, I'll pop off to an auction. So I just had to put money on. And sort of best guess, I literally saved a couple of £1,000. I sold a motorbike. I sold half my life. I didn't have a huge amount of money compared to people in that room. You know, there will have been some big money. And I thought, well, okay, what can I love the monsters of Doctor Who. I mean, that's my passion, is the monsters. And so to me, getting a pteroleptil was really exciting. It wasn't like, oh, I'll go for the old pteroleptil because it's a bit knackered. It was, oh, it's the pteroleptil. It's a surviving pteroleptil. You know, it's a big deal. I love that story. But obviously, I knew it had seen better days. So I thought, a bit naively, because I hadn't done anything as big as that. You know, it taught me a lot doing those sorts of projects. I mean, it was in so many pieces. It was, and I did it over a couple of years. You know, I'd do a bit and then leave it for a while and go back. But it was, yes, I mean, the price obviously was reflected in its condition. And the big money in the room were going for like Daleks. And it was silly money, you know, tens of thousands of pounds going for Daleks. And, you know, more money than I can dream of, really. But it's paid off, I think, hopefully, because the other thing, sorry, Tony, is that some of those props have gone away abroad places. And they've started to trickle back onto the market. And they're in a shocking condition because... not all of them, but in some cases, people have no idea what to do with something like that. And they've just been allowed to drop the bits. And it's so sad because it's only 10 years. The key example I can think of was, do you remember Zog from The Ultimate Adventure? You know, the little bird from he was a lovely, lovely piece. And he was in good nick. And he's come back to this country. I know there's a story behind it, I know. But even so, I looked at that on auction when it came back, and for the first time, I just thought, I'm going to end up with a first suit here and nothing else. You know, the rubber damage was so difficult. I just thought I'll end up just having to sculpt the head again, which defeats the object. It's not as much a restoration, this. It is, do I want to sculpt a Zog from scratch, basically? And it's just a shame because, and that's what annoys me about the selling off of them, because I just do feel it should have been looked after properly in the first place. To avoid it, but hey ho.
Yeah, that's the big shame with some of it, is that they're sold off at auction, they go to private collectors and probably never seen the light of day again. No. Whereas the items you managed to get are then put back on display for people to actually physically enjoy. And with that restoration job, that was quite bad. How did you feel when it arrived and actually saw the physical condition it was in?
Oh, to get the pteroleptil, I got Mestor and the pteroleptil at the same time. and I'd lost out on a couple of lots because I wasn't there. I couldn't say, oh, well, I'll use that money instead on a different item. That was that. Frustrating because I could have got maybe something else as well. But I drove down through the night. The Friday night, I left school. I hired a van. I didn't have a car at the time. I hired a van and I drove to London. I'd never driven through London, and I drove to London to get it. And it was actually the Bonham storage unit was outside White City and outside where, you know, Tom Baker was filmed with the Daleks and Genesis of the Daleks. And I was very excited. So I was like, whoa, my God, that's TV Centre. You know, to me, that was like, you know, where Doctor Who was filmed. That was worth the journey alone. And then, because I'm a country boy, you know, I've never been out the county hardly. Anyway, and then I saw Mess Store and everything. And it to be honest, as diabolical as it all was, it was, you could still see, oh, there's the shell, you know, there's an arm, there's a leg. And it was just like, wow, it's you know, these are real arms and legs, you know, they may not be attached anymore, but it's the real stuff. So it was actually really exciting. I remember being thoroughly excited, even though it looked like I had two knackered corpses, you know, in the back of the van. I mean, they looked very bad condition, but it was just exciting. It was exciting, but I had no idea really how much work it would take. I mean, that pterodactyl, wowza, it was, I mean, I could do YouTube video that lasted probably half a year on all the pictures I've got of it. It was so complicated, and it was just problem solving, you know, having to make internal wire frames to then mount the legs and then sculpt joins. I had to put frames in and support the weight, and it was just a beast to do, but it's I'm really pleased with it now. But in terms of, say, money, if you charge somebody to do that work, it would be, I can't imagine, because there was so much to do. You know, I could never afford to pay someone to do that sort of work. That's another thing, Tony, where I save money, is that I do my own restoration, which is an expensive thing, you know. And that's just where I've been lucky. I've sculpted over the years, and I've been able to, I mean, I brought this little guy down because I'm doing him now. But this is a really nice job because it's very light damage, very light, you know. Very, very, it's a piece of cake for me, this really. So I'm just doing him now.
Brilliant. So, but I've seen that item before, and it does look wonderful now that you've got it fully restored.
The pterodactyl.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah,
it does look absolutely amazing, and you've kind of saved something from being completely destroyed.
Yes,
because obviously when it was originally made, it was made for the purpose of filming and wasn't really supposed to last that long. But you have saved it for future generations to see, and that to me is really, you know, we say that a normal museum, not that yours isn't a normal museum, but like a museum of art would restore paintings so that it would survive, and you've kind of done the same with the props here, and restoring some of the stuff so we don't lose it forever.
Well, I think that the two aims of the museum were very much to, you know, I missed going down every month. I would go to Blackpool, 2009, you know, 2009 when it shut. I loved my trips to Blackpool. I'd go and visit all the props, go and have a packet of chips on the seafront and a cup of tea, and then drive home again. And I was happy, very happy. When it was going to shut, I knew it was coming because the collection was in a sorry state. Even then, it was in a really poor condition. I thought, well, it's going to go to auction, this lot now. And clearly, the BBC at the time as well, they weren't interested in the classic show. They really weren't. I don't know if you remember, but certainly sort of during Tennant's era, and you know, there was a big distance between New Who and the old, and the old show. It was, apart from bringing the Daleks and Cybermen back. I mean, even bringing the Cybermen back, it gave it a different story. It was almost like, well, no, this is totally different. This has nothing to do. And you sense that in the Blackpool exhibition. You could sense the lack of money, and there was no investment. And they were starting those little pop-up exhibitions, you know, to get closer to exhibitions of the new city. And they were sort of really spangly and nicely presented and everything. And there was the little Blackpool exhibition with all these wonderful pieces just being allowed to, you know. So when they came to auction, I just thought, right, the two key things of the museum is get the stuff back out, because I can, at least if I can provide somewhere people can come and they've got that place to come to all year round. You can come and visit, you know. And then the other thing is, as you say, preserve them. Is absolutely it. Because to me, I mean, I'm an art teacher and I've taught, bits of art history over the years. And the thing is, culture that gets chosen as what is important is quite interesting. You get like the art culture, the high art culture, which will say a Damien Hirst is of cultural significance, or a pile of bricks in the Tate is culturally significant. We must preserve this. Well, I'm sorry, but to me, the stuff in this cellar is more culturally significant to me. These are objects that resonate with me, with my childhood, with real experiences. They're not sort of artificially created for galleries. These are things that huge numbers of people all shared together. We all watched so much of these together that that's why when people come to the museum, it's lovely to chat, because we remember, childhood. We remember it's a lovely thing. And so to me, these objects are really important art objects. They're cultural art objects. So, okay, it's not Rembrandt, but I don't care. To me, this is more important than Rembrandt. To have a remaining pterodactyl, that means a lot more to me than, when I've been to Paris and gone on an art exhibition. You know what I mean? And I think it's what people find, different people decide in culture what's important. We must preserve this, we must preserve that. Well, often it's up to people like you and me to sort of say, well, actually, I don't agree with that. I actually think this is important. And I think the BBC should have done this myself. I think there should have been a big museum in the centre of the country where not just Doctor Who, they've done such significant programmes over the years. I think they should have, it's a shame there's never been a big permanent centre for all this.
Yeah, I completely see your point on that. When you watched it as a kid on TV and then see it again, there's kind of a physical memory in seeing something. That's one of the things I like about props. It gives you a connection. Even if you're just holding a replica, you're holding something that was in the show, or you saw your favorite person holding, and it gives you that, much better connection than anything I feel has ever done before.
I think the other interesting thing was I have met very few celebrities from Doctor Who, and I've had good and bad experiences with it. And my wife made me go. When I say made me, she basically forced me to a convention in Newcastle for the 50th, because I was kind of, what am I going to say to people? What do I want to, and excuse me. And it was interesting because when you meet a celebrity and they're nice, and the person I went to see expressly was William Russell. He was who I wanted to see. My wife said, no, you must go, because I thought, you're one of the original crew, and I love those first year of shows particularly, I love. And I thought, right, William Russell was just lovely, absolutely fantastic. And I met people like Jeff Cummins, had a good few Guinness at the bar, Jeff. That was lovely, meeting someone who'd done Target books and done the artwork. And it was just it was really nice. But there was one or two, I'm not going to name them, celebrities that were a little bit standoffish and it had an effect on me afterwards. And I remember feeling a bit down. And when I watched their stories, which were some of my favourite stories, I was a bit, it sort of took something off it for a little while. And the nice thing about props is they don't talk to you. They're not rude. They don't have bad days. They don't sort of think, who are you? And it's like, that's what I like about them. You can, when you go to the Doctor Who exhibition, you can just sort of let yourself, just immerse yourself in it. No one's going to be a bit offhand or not sign that or get a bit shirty. It's just, and you can just, you're free to connect with the object and the environment and things.
Oh, that's really brilliant. Now you've got some other bits and pieces in the museum. It's not all Doctor Who, so it's all classic sci-fi. Going through the pieces you have, it's very funny question. What do you feel would be your favourite piece?
Oh, it's really hard. It's really hard. You see, I've got favourite programmes, which again, it's a lot to do with nostalgia. Talking about with Doctor Who. So something that is, say, stunning. Right, I've got recently, there's a really nice friend of mine up the road who helped me get a gig from Space Above and Beyond. And I don't know if you remember Space Above and Beyond, like a Starship. Right. It only lasted a year. It was made by the people who made the X-Files. And it was basically, it came out just before Starship Troopers. I always thought it came out after Starship Troopers. It felt like Starship Troopers. It wasn't. It came out first. I've got this wonderful alien trooper from Space Above and Beyond, and it's amazing. It's one of the best costumes, without doubt, in the museum. bloody massive, and it was made by Patrick Tatopoulos, who did Independence Day and all the monsters in that and War of the Worlds and stuff. It's insanely good, but it's not my favorite by a mile, because I love the old black and white Outer Limits show, because my dad, about 1980, let me stay up on a Friday night after school, literally till about 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'd watch this black and white flickery old show, because my dad loved sci-fi. I mean, he helped me get into sci-fi. And we'd sit and watch this. He'd come in from the pub after the snooker, the Outer Limits would come on, and it was this creaky old black and white show, and I loved it. So I've got a script from 1963 from the Outer Limits, and so that's very special, because it's from something that has such significance to me. I've got a helmet from Tron, and that was a big film for me. Again, it's not a particularly spectacular item, because they weren't amazingly made costumes. They were just plastic helmets with bits of tape, which everything was composited on. But it's from Tron, you know, it was from such a film that I loved. I'm struggling with this. I tell you, right, I'm one of these people that I tend to like films that nobody else does, right? So people always say a film's awful. I'll go and watch it and generally think, oh, it was quite good, actually. So one of my favorite things, I love the film 2010, which was the sequel to 2000. Yeah. 2010, I was 14 when that came out, and I got a jumpsuit from the Leonov. I love that, because it's just a favorite film of mine.
I've kind of almost asked you to pick which is your favourite child, almost, haven't I?
Yes, possible. Depends what mood I'm in. Depends what mood you're in, doesn't it? Yeah.
But then you will turn in the corner and look at something else and go, actually, I like that. That's my...
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, you got some bits, and you classify it as classic sci-fi.
Yeah.
At what sort of breaking point do you classify it as not classic? And if you was to turn away something from the museum now because it's not classic, would it then be in the museum later on?
Yeah, it's a good point. I've got quite an easy determination on classic sci-fi. In my head, it's not strict, right? It isn't strict. But for me, I love, I love 50s, 60s, and some of the 80s, I guess. But I love that sort of era. But it's pre-internet science fiction. I was wondering myself, I actually gave the museum the name before I'd even thought about it. You know, when you do something and it comes out your mouth and you can't take it back. I'd done everything. And then somebody came in and said, what do you mean by classic sci-fi? And I was like, and then I thought, no, I know what I mean. It's why I'm not into films particularly. Right. The Matrix, which is a good film, actually, is a good sci-fi film. I've never seen the sequels, but it is a good film. But the sort of virtual world, I'm less into. I thought the idea where he wakes up and they're all in the tubes, that was just great sci-fi, fantastic sci-fi, and the depictions of it were amazing. Pre-internet sci-fi, I don't get excited by people excitedly typing on computers going, we're uploading. I don't care, I get more excited by somebody in a rocket ship who's about to crash land on a planet. That's exciting. But people sort of getting stressed on their computers, having a battle on the keyboards, that's when I lose. So it's pre-internet, I think, is my thing. I mean, I love classic sci-fi authors. I read classic sci-fi authors growing up. So Heinlein, John Wyndham's probably my favorite author. H.G. Wells. Yeah, I love those classic ideas. But it's pre-internet. That's what I mean. I'm not into like Johnny Mnemonic, and I'm not saying they're bad. It's just I don't, and I'm not saying I would not have something in either, really. But a good example is I've got a head from Surrogates. Do you remember the film Surrogates with Bruce Willis?
Yep, Bruce Willis. Yeah.
No, I actually think that was like a lot of action films in Hollywood. It was a great first half where it's all about the ideas, and then it descends into an action film after that. But the first half, I thought was excellent. The way they had the different, the machinery living for them, and I thought that was a sort of that's probably not classic SF, because it's a bit more into more virtual and, living through your avatar and all this sort of thing. But I still think that was damn good sci-fi.
But so if you was to get something today, you was offered a prop from a film that was a few years ago, but you didn't think it was right, would you keep hold of it and then perhaps put it in the museum later on?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's like I've got very little space. So it makes my life a bit easier, really, because I haven't got much money either. So it's kind of like, you know, I haven't got much space. I haven't got money. I've filled a lot of what I've got. So it's very much like, it makes my life a bit easier because I can't afford a huge amount. So I've got to be very choosy what I select. So for me, if it's a new film and there's a good sci-fi idea at its heart, I'll tell you a good example. For me, underrated gem was Edge of Tomorrow, which I went into Edge of Tomorrow with zero. I hadn't read any reviews. I knew nothing about it. Tom Cruise is in it, which kind of put me off a bit because but wow, I thought that was a really clever film. I thought the way they had the recurring day was well done. I thought it was just going to be ground up. No, it wasn't. It had a reason. It had a sci-fi reason. It followed its own logic. I like films that follow their own logic and stick to it, you know. So something like Edge of Tomorrow, I've got a little piece from Edge of Tomorrow because I thought that was it was a damn good sci-fi film. So I think ultimately, if it's got a good, strong theme, have it in. I have got like a newish little mini section with newer pieces in, but fundamentally the love is, the core, the old books, and I love adaptation, things from adaptations. Like I've got a bit of an original Triffid. I've got a bit of, I've got one of the Starship Troopers costumes, because again, it's such a classic book, whether you like it or not, anything from Wells, anything of those core themes. Because when I look at it, H.G. Wells really wrote the sci-fi agenda in 10 years. The whole damn thing, bar the internet. I think the internet's about all he was missing. But invisibility, alien invasion, time travel, they're all there, and genetics. And so I start the museum with Wells. In a way, that's kind of classic sci-fi, because he's kind of set the agenda, more than, say, Jules Verne. People say Jules Verne. Well, to me, Jules Verne was more of a fantasist, romantic, the technology coming into it. But Wells really knocked the ball for six, really. I don't think we probably would not be here talking about this if it wasn't for H.G. Wells, I suspect.
Yeah, I guess I do like the Wells idea of what he did predict and what's come out. So it's definitely the sort of what we call the grandfather of sci-fi.
I think so. I start with Wells. I tampered with going for Jules Verne, but on balance, I just think Jules Verne, is more dinosaurs underground. Your odd monster machine, your sort of burrowing machine, the Nautilus. You definitely got that, the technology and definitely a bit of science in there. But Wells really amazing, really, what he did.
So we spoke earlier about, obviously, you've got the Patreon and your little magazine that you're doing. Obviously, because we are in a pandemic at the moment, how has it been for the museum during this last year?
Well, financially, I can't pretend we've dropped all entrance fees. There's been no entrance fee. But I'm not going to sit here and complain. There's people I know in this village. I mean, I live in the North Pennines. But because of, where we are, there's people really been hit hard. There's like a local bus company. There's no one to get on buses, So problems I'm facing shutting the museum really are quite minor. For me personally, I've used it as a time. I've told you about time. Time is the most precious thing to me. So I was doing homeschooling with my children, and then I'd always get a few hours a day in the museum. So for me, it was a chance to actually pull the whole thing to bits, which I virtually did, and I've rebuilt it. So it's a lot better than it was. I've got a lot more props in. So all the stuff you've seen before lockdown, it's not totally different, but it's a huge amount of new pieces I've been able to put in, because they all take time to build the displays and then pose them properly, and and it's just given me a huge amount of time to do that. So for me, in that sense, it's been beneficial. So I feel like I've got a brand new museum, really, in a way. There's so much more to see now. But financially, I can't pretend it's been tight. But we've managed, so we're okay, and that's important.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of looking forward to that, because I had planned to come up and see you last year. But obviously didn't really happen.
Yeah. The good news is, Tony, there's far more in to see now, you know. I mean, obviously I haven't got any more space, but I've just managed to rebuild. You know, when you first do something, you build things and then you do them again, and you just realize that, oh, I can do this better, I can make that, oh, I can save space. And so there's a lot more props in, which for me, it's all about giving value for money and trying to give you the best possible visit you can. So I'm happy in a way that if you haven't been, I'm kind of happy, because it's like, I just feel you're going to get a better visit now than you would have. Fingers
crossed you will be open again soon. Where do you see the future of the museum going?
The thing is, because of the sort of, you probably gathered, the sort of person I am, I'm never going to be finished. There'll always be something else to do. I mean, ultimately, if I fill every available space, I will probably then have to start rotating objects. I mean, some people have said to me, you're going to need more space. I mean, that would be lovely. If the museum was so successful, I had to get a bigger building. That would be amazing. But I think realistically, one of the reasons I've been able to survive the pandemic, which I know not everyone has been in terms of business, I live above the museum. So the ground floor is the museum. So in other words, I've just been able to switch it off, keep humidifiers on, heat on, monitor stuff. Apart from that, I've been able to just shut, and it's not been the end of the world. If I'd had premises, that would have been it. You know, I would have lost the premises. Couldn't have afforded to pay for that. So in that sense, you know, especially at the age I am now, do I want to expand to a different building? I just would have to. I suspect my museum is going to remain a bit of a niche museum, in that it's going to, I'm hoping, become very fondly thought of. I'd like to think I'm becoming, you know, it's like it's become very well known for classic Doctor Who. People realise they can see, they're going to get a good dose of that. You know, obviously, say the Milton Keynes exhibition, I think it's going to be big. They don't have big pieces, and it's going to be very broad spectrum. And I think obviously mine's probably quite a specialist museum. So it's difficult to say. It's already gone in ways I never imagined, Tony, I'll be honest. I never thought I'd have the council battling me. I never thought I'd have John Levine walking down the road with 2 snowtroopers, you know. It's all things like that I never imagined for a minute. I mean, that's the other thing, because of where we're at in the village, we literally face a little art centre and coffee shop and gallery. And there's pubs, and we're in the marketplace. So it's a great place for people to come and stay. It's a relaxing place. It's an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's very close to the Roman wall, so it's a nice place if you do come over. In the summer, you know, it's a great place to sit out, have a drink, relax, come and see the museum, and chill out for a bit, you know. So I'm hoping, you know, we have a few more guests maybe, and do guest weekends, things like that would be nice, because it is a nice place to visit and hang out. I mean, Sophie Aldred is still booked to come and visit, and that's just all on hold really. So hopefully that'll pan out, and I don't see why not, and we'll sort, you know, and that you know, more things like that as time goes on. I always say the museum's by a fan for fans, and that's in a nutshell. I'm just a fan who has worked me backside off putting this together, and very happy. And the whole point is to share it with other fans so that you have got somewhere to go. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Milton Keynes one opening, simply because I never get to visit a sci-fi museum anymore. So it'd be nice for me to get in the car and think, right, I'm off, and go and actually see something myself, you know. So yeah.
No, it's a beautiful thing. I think your passion for it comes through, and it comes through in the museum and the bits that you post online, which I think is what makes it successful, and for people to want to travel out there to see it. And I think it's a wonderful thing, truly.
Oh, thank you, Tony. I mean, bottom line, if you come over, you need my advice. I don't know how far you're traveling from, but if you can, it's quite a good place to stay the night. You know, have a night if you're driving a long way. I always say stay a night, and you know, if you come and stay on a Saturday, you can come and have a look. I'm not going to charge you again to come and have a look on a Sunday. You know what I mean? Just come and have a look round, and then have a night, have a pub meal, and chill out, and then go back on. That's what I always think. If you're coming a long way, and it's quite a nice little break. You know what I mean? I've had people travel all over. A lady from Paris came to the open, travelled from Paris. She stayed the weekend. I was just smart. You know?
That's a wonderful thing that she was that into it. She was. Yeah. I think that's partly your passion for it. People want it as well. So she was prepared to make that journey up to see her.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's amazing. it amazes me, to be honest, because I am just Joe Schmo and Potter Anonymous seller, really. But it's very kind. I'm pleased that.
I think that's actually all we have time for at the moment. So obviously, Neil, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you for having me on.
It's been a great pleasure. Fingers crossed that you manage to get the museum open.
Oh, we will.
Again.
Don't worry about that. It'll be open again.
Yeah. I totally believe you. I think your will and determination will keep it going and keep it going for many years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Very welcome, Tony. Thanks for having me on.
To me here. So there we go, guys. That's the end of our prop talk today. Please please subscribe. I will put a link to Neil's Facebook page, the museum Facebook page, in the description. So obviously go and check that out. But I will see you guys in the next video very soon.